Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with another victorious Talking Tactics show with our favourite football data expert, Gareth. How are you doing, mate?
Very well. Even better after all that. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get through it. We just caught up there quickly backstage. Wasn't the most eventful of games, but a win is a win, especially at this stage of the season.
Yeah, it's a funny old game, really, wasn't it? Yeah, it was just quite uneventful. I sort of sat there flicking through my phone for quite a bit of it because it was just sort of, yeah, quite non-eventful. But yeah, I mean, a win's a win, isn't it?
Exactly. So yeah, we've got all our usual slides, passing networks, XG, player influence, and also you picked out a couple of things in your match of the day style analysis that I know you teased out yesterday, which I'm sure we'll find very useful. So without further ado, we'll get into it. Before I get all the slides up, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. I think we're 25 away from 1400. So well on the way to 1500 subscribers. So please do hit that subscribe button and comment on anything that you see in the video. So, Gareth, let's go passing networks first and back to our kind of usual heavy passing networks combination. Sorry, between Martinez, Mings, Concert, and Moreno.
Yep. You nailed it. Back to what we normally see. We're looking at sort of the left-hand side again, building up through the left-hand side. Still think Tyrone's sort of in the game, especially his long ball passing his insight was exceptional in this game. I really one of his better passing games of the season, I think. But what I also took away of it, and we'll get on to it a little bit later, was that Martinez average position a lot further forward in his box, out of his box, sorry, than what we normally would see.
Yeah. Um, and it was strange really because well, I don't know how strange it was, but as we talked about there at the start, like the kind of the strangeness of the game in terms of how Fulham approached it, because it was almost like at certain periods of the game, whether they just thought, I don't know. They certainly wouldn't have thought, what's the point? But it was just puzzling as to why they weren't doing any pressing whatsoever.
No, they just had sort of very little momentum, didn't they? Sort of, to sort of to achieve anything out of the game almost. I kind of got that. I said to my missus, we were sitting here watching it, I said, it's not like they've come to do anything. It's almost like they've come to see what if they can play for a draw, they'll play for a draw. They had that one shot, as we'll see, sort of like in the first few minutes, and that was about it was only sort of towards sort of the last sort of 60 minutes or something that they started to press in the second half. Like they'd had a bit of a kick up the backside, but even then it was just sort of you never got a feeling that they were going to score.
It's just so sporadic, and I was quite worried, when I saw the starting lineup. I know Mitrovic wasn't playing, and in a lot of ways, Mitrovic is a in quotes easier opponent for a Tyro Mings to play against than a Dan James and a Solomon and obviously Wilson started and went off, but those guys have caused us real problems in the past. Those types of players, and I was really worried about that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Those types of players, players at pace that like to run in beyond. And I think we've highlighted on quite a few pods in the past, that defensive line and how sort of we do like to play high and how we sort of really do try and set that offside trap and how risky it has been in the past. But they just didn't play on that at all.
Mm, yeah. And obviously looking at the networks now to the influence, again back to kind of Mings, Concert, Luis Martinez, quite prominent there. Anything else that you notice in here?
No, I think that the width was back was more my sort of take from it. Sort of I know we see that Ashley Young almost makes up that sort of orthodox back three, if you like, when we're in possession with Moreno pushed high, and that changed a little bit throughout the game in Moreno's sort of average position, playing a little bit higher in that second half. But yeah, sort of not much difference really. What we would say is they're probably McGinn a little bit
Mm.
further forward on that right hand side in that 4-2-3-1. So, but it's a good shape.
Yeah. That one thing was good. Yeah, that we had kept a real good shape, and when they did try and threaten or try and get through us, we had enough players either to block them out, or there's one or two occasions where Mings was just jockeying and letting the ball go out of play, or just having that assuredness to know that they weren't going to get through us.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I can't say no more than that. The shape was perfect, in and out of position, really.
Yeah, Cool. So yeah, quick look at the XG. I don't think we'll spend too long on this because both teams weren't too created too many chances in front of goal, and certainly not Fulham.
No, I think, and we'll see the same thing on the XG timeline. It's sort of pretty much I think that shot map there, practically, you could say that sums up anyone who watched it. That sums up their game perfectly.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And also, yeah, like you say, the XG timeline there. I don't know, I don't know what to say about Fulham. They were just so weak.
Yeah, you wouldn't be very happy if you were a Fulham fan and you'd gone up to Villa Park to see your team play like that, would you? I don't know whether they were tired or something. I don't quite know. I expected a lot more from them. I really did. I've watched them quite a few times this season, and I expected a lot more from them.
Yeah, yeah, and quick look at the threat game, the game flow. Yeah, again, both teams not really too threatening, but I mean, I don't really remember Fulham having too much of a threatening spell against us, to be honest.
No, I mean, like I said just earlier on, it sums it up a little bit. Whereas in the second half, Fulham did tend to press a little bit high and did try to play in our half a little bit more. And I think that's probably shown on the expected threat timeline there that they did sort of pose that little bit of threat. But that's just through passes anyway. It's not actually chances. So, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Right. So let's get into the the match of the day style analysis. Again, while I'm just sharing my screen, please don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and comment on anything that you've seen, with this, or with anything that you might want Gareth to have a look at. We've got 6 or 7 slides to go through here. First up, a couple of slides on our build up. So yes, mate, what have you noticed here?
Yeah, we've seen it a lot. We highlighted it in the last pod, I think, against Brentford, where they tried to sort of set up in that 4-1-4-1, sort of a midfield four, if you like, and try and sort of teams have picked onto this now that Villa like to play in that box midfield, as we've spoken about many times. And again, Fulham tried to do that, a midfield four. You've got the 2 central midfielders trying to block passing lanes to Buendia and Ramsey coming in, and the 2 centre forwards sort of dropping deeper onto Louise and Dendoncker. So, yeah, not much to say again, really. It is what it is, but we can't, again, we've said it many times, we can't get so predictable.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And then you're looking at here, second phase of the. Just bear with me. I'm just trying to get. There we are. Just a few little technical issues there.
Well, I think
Second phase of the build up, just continuing there. Yeah, and you're saying not to be too predictable. This second phase, what can we do? Like, how can we kind of get around that?
Well, I think this is where the sort of, I said about Tyrone Mings, we tend to play out through that left-hand side. And again, we've spoken about it a lot. This is where a sort of like a higher right back almost that plays in a position that's got the energy and the defensive nous like Moreno has, to get up and down the pitch, and so you've got passing options out through all sides, and through central areas, and not just one place where Moreno is. And I think we're not, I don't want to use the word luck, but we're riding our luck sometimes in many aspects, because we're very predictable to go out to that left hand side. Now we're good that it works for us at the moment, but we need to have that other option as well, because we can't always go central and we can't always go on the left. So we do need that sort of that option. We've got the option in behind with Ollie Watkins for the long ball, so we've got that. Just need to add that right hand side, I think.
Yeah. Well, looking at rumours, there's every man and his dog getting linked with Villa at the minute, but I'm sure that is a position that Emery is going to want to improve on. A little bit on the half spaces here, taking up half space positions. Anything here? Obviously it looks like a good shape, but is there anything that we could work on
I
here?
can't see the graphic, mate.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
I think I remember which one it was, but I can't quite see. I think it's more along the lines of sort of when Dean Ramsey coming into those certain positions, you've got to be careful that we're not getting sort of too narrow or we're not too wide. Yeah. So as we can see here, we can see that midfield, that sort of Ramsey and Buendia coming into those tighter spaces from wider areas and stuff like that. Now we're in a 4-2-3-1 this time, not a 4-4-2. So it's a little bit easier for them to come into those sort of central positions. But again, Concert needs to play that ball out. He does, I think, eventually. And we've got many passing options there, and Tyrone's
Mm.
passing, as I said before, was incisive, and that's why he gets a little bit. His expected threat from his passing is increasing game on game, because I think he's just getting that little bit braver on the ball. Whether he's being told
Yeah.
to, pick out a pass, be braver, I don't know. But again, Ashley Young is making up that orthodox back three, you see, so he's not an option higher up the pitch there. So this is what I say. We have to we need to try and get that balance a little bit right, but it's working for us. So who are we to argue, really?
No, no, I agree. The only thing I'd like to see is maybe Buendia and Ramsey more on the half turn, like trying to receive it. But yeah, I think there's a because otherwise they're immediately going to try and take the ball and it's going to take them backwards. Whereas sometimes they're going to want to, you know, if they're on the half turn, then they can choose which way they want to go.
Well, exactly that. I mean, I think it's a lot easier for Aaron Ramsey because he can take that ball and then thread it out to Moreno on the run on the left-hand side. Whereas if that ball goes into Emi Buendia, he can't do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, it's like you say, it's a good shape. There's bits that we can work on, but all encouraging signs and just something to behold. Sometimes when we get those moves, the way that they're being coached at the minute is really nice to see. Now, one player that you did focus on here is Emi Martinez, and obviously we did this a few talking tactics episodes ago where we were kind of quite concerned about Martinez in terms of how he's used at playing from the back, but he's gradually got better and better over the course of the last few games. What are you noticing in terms of how he's developing and what else we can do with him?
Yeah, I think, at times, I think, especially in the second half, fans were a little bit jittery. He was holding on to the ball a little bit too long and sort of a little bit too indecisive in his passing and where he was going to go. But that's coming as sort of to fruition, if you like, in a way. And we saw on the passing networks that his average position was almost on the edge of his box as he was here. And this was a lot of the case where you're allowing your back four then to be a little bit more spread out. And this again goes back to where the right hand side is. If Ashley Young pushes up higher there, another 10, 15 yards, there's a clipped ball over the top, but we're not
Mm,
quite in that phase yet. But he is getting better at that, Martinez. I think they really want him to be involved in the build-up more and more, and we're seeing that more and more.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially as he allows that extra pass, or he creates a bit more indecision in the striker's mind as who's going to press and where they're going to press. So that
And that's
that obviously helps that.
yeah, that's right. And it also, like I said, I think I said in the text, it allows your fullbacks to then be a lot wide, your centre backs to be a lot wider, and then your fullbacks to push on a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. So this one again, like you just touched on before about Fulham maybe pressing a bit more in that second half. So what did they do, and how did they put us under that little bit more
Yeah,
pressure?
it was more down to sort of Pereira really sort of was initiating the press higher up, sort of on Consa really in the main, but also trying to press Emi Martinez. And like I say, at times he did hold on to the ball a little bit, maybe too long. But this is where the passing choice for me comes in for Martinez. Now he's played the ball to Consa, who's took on the turn and then sort of decided to carry the ball. Whereas in really, we know that Tyrone is sort of a little bit of a better passer, really, sort of, than Esri. This ball's got to come out to the left-hand side. But again, Villa, I guess they don't want to be too predictable. So they're kind of going against what we are trying to say. But yeah, play to your strengths. The ball's got to come out here. That's where the space is. The press has been initiated by Pereira. Play that ball to Ashley Young, back to Martinez and come out the other side.
Yeah, yeah. Now I think these are the last couple. Wanted to something really interesting actually that you're focusing on how we've. I mean, I wouldn't notice this, but you obviously noticing this is part of your job. How we're setting up on throw-ins.
Yeah, I messaged my a pal of mine, sort of Thomas, he's a Liverpool throwing coach, does a lot of work. I haven't heard back from him, unfortunately. I just wondered whether this was actually coached, and for me, it has to be. It's too. I noticed this on a few occasions, especially in the second half, where they were almost in a line. They were trying to sort of block throws, sort of coming down the line and going back, and then back into central areas. It's too obvious. You've got five in a row here, and then you've got two players behind that second line backing that up. So to
Mm.
me, it looks just sort of. I don't know whether this is coached or not. I'd love somebody to tell me from Villa if it is. Yeah, I just picked up on it. Just something I noticed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's shutting down a lot of options into
Yeah.
feet. So it must be like you wouldn't set in that formation, and like it looks like Ramsey's pointing. So there's got to be something there that they're looking at.
Yeah,
So
well, what
yeah,
I did
really
notice,
interesting. Oh,
yeah, like I
sorry,
said in
my
the
bad.
text, it seemed that everybody was stationary. They weren't
Yeah,
sort of making runs to cover it. It was almost like they were positioned in certain positions for a reason.
yeah. Well, look, we'll spot. Viewers, have a look in the next game, or anyone who's seen it previously, please let us know in the comments as well. But we'll certainly want to look out against Man United on Sunday. And then finally, I think you wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out because it was a bit of a frustrating one for Ollie Watkins, but he's still doing that running off the ball, and I'm sure the rewards will come in the next few games.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, as opposition analysts and sort of analysts, we're looking at a lot of stuff in the game, sort of for both teams, but especially off the ball a lot of the time. And Ollie Watkins was making copious runs in behind, loads and loads, just the same amount, sort of pretty much that he has been in recent times. But yeah, running in behind, doing really well. And I just think a lot of the time he wasn't always found. That ball could go back into Wendy, but Ramsey sort of plays the right choice and it goes round. So it's an interesting one, yeah. But he's constantly running in behind. Again, be interesting to see what Man United do at the weekend.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed. They're a little bit jaded after their exploits last night, and obviously from the FA Cup semi-final as well. So, moving on to that United game, one that we should be able to go into with some confidence. A lot of fans were saying that we maybe conserved a bit of energy against Fulham because they didn't push us too far. Are we going into the United game, them off the back of, 2 or 3 really difficult games,
Yeah,
longer games as well?
we
Who
know Old
knows?
Trafford is not the sort of our favourite hunting ground, really, but it depends. I think a lot of Mourinho up against Wan-Bissaka is going to be a really interesting one, and one of the best one-on-one defenders in the Premier League, if not the best, in Wan-Bissaka. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. Ollie Watkins pacing behind has got to be spot on, and those long balls from Tyrone to him over the top could prove really well.
Yeah. Well, look, you know, we've been on a phenomenal run. I think it's like 3 goals conceded in 10 games, one of them being a penalty, unbeaten in 10 games as well. So, look, if we can't be in better form, and and even if the worst was to happen, we're still in a phenomenal position to go into the last few games of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're playing sort of two teams, Man United and Tottenham, coming up, who are not in the greatest of form, and especially can we pick up any points? I mean, I think we'd all say that a draw for us at Old Trafford would be a good result. A win would be exceptional for us,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gareth, we will be here, I'm sure, next week reviewing that and talking tactics. We'll be back next week to see whatever happens, whatever the result. I'm sure we'll have some really good talking points. We've been extremely lucky on this show as well. I think we've only talked about 1 defeat, maybe 2 defeats
Yeah.
maximum. So, hopefully that good luck will continue. Again, mate, where can we all find you? People asking questions. I know you've had a bit of interaction on Twitter this week, so where can people find you,
Yeah,
mate?
I get quite a few. So at that Garate JC, give me a shout and everything. We've got a few things coming up in the pipeline, hopefully. So yeah.
Great stuff, great stuff. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, please do hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Help us get past 1400 onto 1500 and on the road to 2K. Get involved in your comments. We answer as many as we possibly can. Hopefully we win on Sunday against United. We'll be back next week. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.